Hello everyone and welcome to Mental Monday, the big friendly conversation about mental health. I'm Jake, it's great to be with you for a conversation about mental health for the next half an hour. As you're probably aware, it's not Monday, it is Wednesday, it's day 3 of Mental Health Awareness Week, and Monday to Friday this week I will be live talking about mental health on the stream, and I will allow a few more people to join and give a few more minutes in. Just before I start my introduction. So, Mental Monday is my live chat, which I have every Monday talking about mental health. I did decide to stop it for a while, didn't really have the right setup, didn't really have the right engagement, didn't really find out my place, really, in what I was trying to effectively talk about. So, I'm back. And hopefully we are more energized, which is another comment I got, as well as actually make sure you can hear me. So we have a new phone on an actual tripod and headphones are in, which hopefully helps with the sound if I'm talking into this and not moving it around or hissing it, which moves it around and you hear all sorts of background noise. So if you're new here, Mental Monday is unscripted, completely unscripted. I will mention the blog post I have written today, but there has been nothing scripted specifically for this week. And every episode, I normally go by your comments as to what I talk about. There's not really any kind of formality. It's just a conversation about mental health. I kind of check in, make sure everyone's okay, which is more important during these kind of times. That's a phrase I'll use a lot. I do apologise. But during these times, I feel like, we need to be checking in with each other more. So that's something that I will be doing as well. Alright, so we're 2 minutes in. Another thing you'll note is that I will keep doing this with my hair. It is because it is long. I'm unable to get it cut, so it is what it is. Hopefully you can hear me. If you do have any issues with the stream, do let me know. Because I have no feedback as to whether you can hear me, whether you can see me. I've got the stream dashboard up, but that is it. It's just my phone and the stream dashboard. So if you can't actually hear me or see me for any reason, do let me know. And I will try and sort that out. Mental Health Awareness Week. Probably give a little intro to that if you're just joining. Mental Health Awareness Week is starting Monday, finishes Sunday. And the theme was kindness. It was originally sleep. That changed to kindness, because obviously kindness is much more, I guess, important now, because we're all seeing a lot more kindness in the community. We're being kinder more. And I'm going to talk today about my blog post, which I normally do. I've been doing a blog post every day, and as well as going live. So on Monday, the blog was basically what's coming up in the week and an intro to the week. Tuesday's blog post was my thoughts on kindness. So I did about 800 words-ish on what I thought about kindness and how kindness has helped my mental health, which I spoke about yesterday. And today, my blog was on the report from the Mental Health Foundation, which I have some stats on, which I have mentioned yesterday, and today is going to be about the blog, and it's going to be about tomorrow's blog as well, because tomorrow's blog is my last official blog that I'll write, and that is about kindness tips and what MHF say you can do to be kind, what people have done to be kind to me, etc. And then on Friday is my last blog, which is a big roundup of all the best blogs. A note on that, and I'm going to plug this right into the start, is that if you have written a blog or done a video or written an article or produced any kind of content which is publicly available on the internet, send it to me. I will read it. I want to include it in my blog post if it's appropriate. It needs to be not members only, so anyone can access it, which my readers obviously need to access it. It needs to be preferably in English, so I can read it, because English is pretty much the only language I can speak. I didn't decide to take up learning one during this period of lockdown. And it also needs to be non-triggering, which is for me, if you don't put trigger warning on top of the post, it should be fine. But I'm reading all these blogs just to make sure. If it's a little bit graphic, I can add a trigger warning in, because what will happen is, much like last year, I do a post and I say, this is what I've read, this is why I found your blog helpful, and a link to it, and obviously credit back to you. So little comment, each is in its own section, and it's a big roundup post, which is then archived on my site, so anyone looking up content for this week can see all the best blogs, then go over to your site and have a read themselves if they're interested in what you have to say. So request blogs, content, videos, anything, please send to me. Thank you. Okay, we're about 5 minutes in now. I normally wait 5 minutes just to let people join. So kindness stats. Rather a small post, actually. If you're wondering, also, I forgot to mention, I keep bending down here because my laptop is down here with Stream Dashboard, so I can see the chat and also read my blog post that I wrote. So this is why I keep occasionally dipping down. I kind of do go off camera slightly. Hopefully it's not too noticeable, but I can always hold my laptop up, actually. I'm in a kind of slightly new position further along, which means I don't have a kind of drawer. I have to put it on the chair, which is a bit more lower down, so kind of laptop's up here. But I think the biggest thing I want to mention, and this is something that I've been talking about on Twitter, is that 72% of UK adults believe we should learn from this time to become kinder as a society. These are mainly all from a YouGov poll of about just over 4,000 people. YouGov is the kind of polls, all the polls come from most polls come from YouGov, to be honest. But the Mental Health Foundation's poll is done by YouGov, about 4,000 people over 18. Yeah, so I think that's it. If you want it, I have linked in my blog post, and it's also on the Mental Health Foundation's website, which is mentalhealth.org.uk/MHAW, the kind of, the details, because I know a lot of people, especially with numbers around, coronavirus, everyone's really on the kind of, where did the numbers come from, so that's why I included that. But I would agree. I think this is, as has been mentioned, and you're probably sick of hearing the word unprecedented, but this is an unprecedented time, and we're unlikely ever going to go through this time again. So a period of basically being inside, being surrounded by our household, and in close kind of contact with our neighbours who we may speak to over the fence, etc. But it's a time where we're firmly rooted in where we are, and hopefully, especially for the vulnerable as well, those shielding the elderly, people who may be alone during this time and shielding, people who may not have access to, say, the internet, people who don't know how to work Zoom or can't FaceTime. There's so many groups I could go on, but we're kind of helping them, and roughly 1 million people, it's estimated, by The Guardian, have signed up to actually help the vulnerable people. And I think that, kind of, as a society, we are being kinder to one another. I would hope that in the kind of little communities we've formed with our neighbours and our friends, hopefully we've actually become kinder and helping people and doing that generosity. And there's a lot of stories around, more so than usual, that kindness is it's in focus more. And I think that now we're focusing on it, we shouldn't just go back to the normal and kind of forget about kindness and its value in, like, helping someone else and helping our own mental health as well. And kindness, being kind, help someone else, yes, and it's good to help other people, and yes, we should be helping other people. But what's often not spoke about is when you help someone else, you yourself have a positive impact. And I feel like hopefully we continue doing that. And that's, I don't know, depending on how long this goes on for, depending on what happens. Hopefully we do stick with it. We stick with the kindness we've been seeing. Whether that is the case or not, I don't know. I would hope that it is, but I feel like the routine and the kind of as life gets back to normal, I don't know how much there'll be that focus on kindness when we've got everything else back in our lives to focus on once again. So that's really the big number that stood out to me. And the report is 13 pages, and I have links it in my blog, and it's also on the Mental Health Foundation's website. They've produced a couple of things. They've produced a lot, actually. They've produced some stories of kindness, and I'll be sharing these tomorrow. And I think that these stories of kindness are just people saying basically what they're doing to be kind, what kindness they've received, and it's nice. It's a nice listen, and I like spending time going through it because it made me realise, kindness is powerful. And I think I said this on Twitter earlier, is that my new thought on kindness, which kind of has only come up today really, is that kindness is powerful. And I didn't really mention that before, and I mentioned about the impacts on mental health. And if you've watched my earlier lives, if you're on day 3 now, is that the impact kindness has is good for our mental health, good for someone else's. But the power of kindness, I guess, is something I didn't consider until today. And it was looking at those stories from the Mental Health Foundation and others on Twitter, lots of others on Twitter, is that actually kindness is powerful. And I think that's something I really want to get across, because that's kind of struck me as a thought for this week. And that's probably going to be the biggest thought I have, because when I do all these weeks, I kind of learn something as well, because I go right into it, because I do a blog a day. I did last year and I'd done this year as well. So I read pretty much everything there is out there that I can find, all the resources from the Mental Health Foundation. And it's like taking a journey for me, because when I'm writing about it, I try and obviously put my own perspective on, which I did the most on my blog yesterday. But I try and talk about kindness, and it just got me thinking about it a lot more. And I always get thinking, and that's why I love these weeks so much, because while I'm very much a part of them and, writing blogs and doing these videos, I'm actually kind of going through the week myself, and that's why I really like getting involved, because then I kind of realise something, I see something a different way, and actually that changes my perception. And when it changes my perception, that's not just it's been nice to think about kindness. I'm going to remember that kindness is powerful, and that's something that's going to stick with me, I think. And certainly this time is something we're never going to forget in our lifetimes. What we're going through right now, being under lockdown, being separated, being confined to quarters, having the same view out the window, etc., etc. We're never going to forget this time, and hopefully we never forget kindness either. And that's kind of how I tie those two together, is that kindness is much more probably important and undervalued, but now we realise kindness is important. We've taken so many things for granted. Well, I have anyway. Food, for instance. Going a couple of weeks, when this started, we went 2-3 weeks without a delivery. as compared to going in the shops once a week. I thought, food was just it comes in the house and I eat it. Very naively. Being 18, you can imagine, yes, I eat a lot. Doesn't look like I do, but I do eat a lot. It's actually made me realise, it can be taken away from you, like going out, for instance. I mean, before the last couple of weeks, we've been allowed one walk a day, which I haven't been able to take because we're in the shielding category. But actually having this space and having this time outside is, valuable, and then it's taken away, and then you realise, you took that kind of for granted as well, and you kind of family and friends, when you see them, and then you can't see them, and then it's just kind of, there's that space, and hopefully the kindness that we then show each other to get everyone through, to get each other through this time, is not something we forget as well when we can see everyone in the flesh again. Hopefully when we're kind of out and about and not doing things virtually and having the pressures of life and work and the daily commute and the 9 to 5 or whatever else it may be resuming, that we don't forget the kindness and we still make time for it, and it's still very much part of who we are. And that's kind of my extended thought on kindness, which I did kind of talk about yesterday, but I felt like linking it into that 72% who think we should learn from this time to become kinder. I think that's probably a better way I could have explained it today than yesterday. So, we're about 2/3 of the way through the stream. Does anyone want to say anything? I normally, there's no script, so I've got loads of stuff about mental health I could talk about. Something I could talk about all day. But really I go by what you say in the chat as to what we say. So if you do have anything you would like to say, do just let me know in the comments and I will obviously talk about it. How are we all? That's probably another question I'd ask. Being the mental health impact is obviously going to be quite severe, especially if you're already suffering. But I just really want to check in. How are you? Another thing to note that I didn't note at the start, which I'm going to say now, is that if you do want to talk to me but don't want to talk to me on the stream where everyone else can see it, my Twitter is @JakeSWrites. I've also got a website and an email on there, which you can email if you do emails, or you can do Twitter or Instagram, which is Jake_Symons. You can hit me up on there, I guess, and say hello if you want to talk. And they do get busy sometimes, the messages, but I do try my best to answer everybody. So, yes, say hello. Yes, I'm just waiting to see if anyone has anything to say, really. I don't normally have awkward silences on this, I normally fill time, but if you do want to say anything at any point, do just let me know. I think the next thing that I could say, leading into what I've just said, is that kindness is helpful in so many ways to us, but also being kind to ourselves. And there was a statistic in the report, which I'm just going to dig out the numbers so I don't get it wrong. But in the Mental Health Foundation, they said that 67% said that it was important to look up. 67% said it was important to look after their own needs as well as the needs of others, which is basically it's important to be kind to others, but also important to be kind to yourself. And I really use this point to talk about self-care and the fact that it's okay to take time to self-care, because that's not really something we do, I guess. When we don't do self-care, we normally say that self-care is selfish or I don't deserve it. And I would use that stat there, the 67%, to actually, yes, self-care is important. And no, it's not selfish, because being kind to yourself doesn't necessarily mean you're being unkind to someone else. And it's very important that you're kind to yourself so you can continue to be in a good place to help other people. And I would really hope that we do find time during this period to be kind to ourselves. One of the biggest things that I've been talking about is actually accepting that we're all trying our best. And I've spoke about this on Twitter in quite a few of my replies, is that we're all going through something we've never been through before. I certainly can't think of anything ever like this. And we're all trying our best. And I think being kind to yourself, for me, is accepting that your best is actually good enough. And what you are doing, what you are achieving or not achieving during this time is good enough, and that by trying your best and accepting that and not beating yourself up for kind of wishing you did this and wishing you did this. I was hoping that I might find time to do more kind of fiction and write more kind of fiction stuff and work on kind of one of the books I was intending to write ages ago, but I didn't. Life took over, and that's okay. It's okay to be kind to yourself, and if you haven't, written that book or learnt a language or played the kind of guitar that's been sitting in the corner gathering dust, that's okay. And I think that there is no pressure on ourselves to kind of use this time to be super productive, and it's okay if you need to take that time not to do anything. That's okay. And I would hope that we all find that place where we can actually be kind to ourselves and allow us tell ourselves that it's okay. Pardon me, not to do apologise, not to beat ourselves up. And that's my thoughts on that stat as well. Self-care isn't selfish. It isn't. And I'm just going to hold that thought there and see if you want to say anything else. We're kind of coming to the end of the stream now. We normally only go for about half an hour, although it's half an hour at the minimum, although it's longer if you guys want to say more. I normally go until I'm tired or you've run out of things to tell me in the comments, in which case I kind of wrap it up. But it's definitely... It's definitely been an experience I'll never forget. Nor will anyone. And talking about kindness and sharing in it with you is something for me that's really helped. And being kind is something we're all relying on. We're all relying on the kindness of others. Effectively, if you think about it from a non-mental health perspective, it's the kindness of key workers, keeping everything going. It's the kindness of people when we're out to stay 2 meters away from us. It's the kindness that we're putting in so many people, and the kindness we're relying on from so many people, to actually help us get through this time. And I think that's something we hopefully realise and continue to value kindness and the power and the actual difference, the physical difference kindness can make in society, in the world. And kindness is powerful, and it comes back to that point again. Also, the Mental Health Foundation have put another stat out, which kind of goes into that as society, which is that 55% of people think it's right for politicians to value kindness. Now, I try and stay out of politics when I'm talking publicly. I try and stay I try and distance myself from politics because 2 reasons. One, I'm only 18. I feel educated enough to understand and see what's going on, but not to the position where I would be able to hold myself accountable to what I would say. And I feel this is something I've said on Twitter a lot. If I say something, I'm going to hold the ground on that because I'm going to hold myself accountable to what I've said. So obviously political, there's a lot of different views, and if I can't confidently hold my position, it's normally not a view I express publicly. Also because I feel like it's not really something I need to talk about. Certainly doesn't. It's not really something that comes into mental health in my sphere. It certainly does when it comes to funding and all that kind of issues. But in terms of getting through the day-to-day, it's not something I really talk about. And then from a marketing sense, it's pretty much not needed. So I do try and stay out of it. But I think that's really interesting, that whatever your kind of political beliefs, your party, your vision of society, how you want things to happen or things not to happen, is that kindness and the kind of value on society and the value and the kindness of politicians to actually be kind and make their decisions out of kindness and out of their will to help us, really. And hopefully, I would be in the 55% on that. But it's actually quite half and half, that number. I would have expected a greater number of people to feel politicians should value kindness than did. And it's just, I would have just assumed it was higher. Maybe that's my naivety again that I just mentioned. But it's just an interesting one that stood out for me as well. So, there we have it. We're at our 30 minutes. And if you need anything, let me know. You can let me know on Twitter mainly, which I'm most active on because most of the conversation for this week happens on hashtag Mental Health Awareness Week, on hashtag Kindness Matters, at me, at Jake S. Wrights. You can also message me. The messages are open. So hopefully you have found some benefit so far. There's only going to be 2 more lives, which is tomorrow and Friday. So we're halfway through the week now, and it's been great, really, for me to share in this week. And I'm always grateful to be here, and There is a great mental health community on Twitter, and if you do know where to look, there is a mental health community, and it does have that kind of community. I know there's a lot of negativity, and probably the biggest downside on Twitter is it's one of the easiest places to be unkind. And hopefully this week, especially being talked about on Twitter, and the calls for everyone to be kind is coming from so many people, that's actually something where we see more people being kind and less people being unkind. In an ideal world, I would hope no one's unkind, but that's never going to happen realistically, which is a shame, really, and quite a sobering note to end the stream on. So I hope you found some value in today and me talking, and hopefully if you do need anything, you will reach out to someone you trust, someone you know, or me. Hopefully it's someone you know before me. I'm not sure what use I would be to you over a Twitter message, but I will try my best, but I am very limited for you. Hopefully that's been valuable, and hopefully you found that interesting. Like I say, tomorrow is the last official talk about mental health, because Friday is the roundup post, so tomorrow will be my last blog of the week, and thank you, I guess, for talking about mental health this week, and for sharing in this week, and for watching this, and for getting involved, and for being kind in whatever ways you have been. And it's been great to be part of that, and be part of the community of kindness. And I just want to thank you all again for creating and building and talking and showing that community of kindness, especially this week. And on that, I will leave the stream, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to know more, my Twitter is the best place to go, on my website, jakesymons.com. You can talk to me at any time you need to, unless I'm asleep, in which case I'll reply when I wake up. That's pretty much everything I need to say. Unless you've got anything else, just hold it off for a couple of seconds, just to make sure there's nothing else anyone wants to say today on today's episode, and there doesn't appear to be, so I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow for another talk about Mental Health Awareness Week, and another special episode of Mental Monday, the big friendly conversation about mental health.